Hi, welcome to the Sliding Doors podcast. I'm Susheel, and we have Rohan at the other end. Rohan, say hi.
Hello to all our loyal listeners and viewers. Susheel and I today would like to get into the topic of tolerance, because that's something that as we explore the topic, we realize is in the news quite a lot now, either through politics or through this pandemic. And it makes a lot of people uneasy. And that uneasiness results in all kinds of crazy stuff. So Susheel and I thought it would be good to sort of explore this today. And Susheel, I have a WhatsApp forward I want to read out to you. At least this is an abridged version of the original. And
So
I want
if
to
it's
read
a
it
WhatsApp
out.
forward, is it true?
Well,
We don't
someone
know.
said this. Someone said this, and we Googled it, so we know that the person it's attributed it, who apparently said this, really did say it. But the content, is it true, is a very valid question. So check this out. There is no there is no doubt that Trump is a buffoon. I'm sure you all will agree. However, read this. The buffoon in the White House just brokered 2 Middle East peace accords, something that 71 years of political intervention and endless wars failed to produce. The buffoon in the White House has had the greatest impact on the economy, bringing jobs and lowering unemployment to the Black and Latino population of any other president. Okay, there's a grammatical error there. Of any other president ever. The buffoon of the White House turned our relationship with the Chinese around, brought hundreds of businesses back to the US, and revived the economy. The buffoon in the White House fast-tracked the development of a COVID vaccine. It will be available within weeks. This forward came out maybe a week ago. We still don't have a vaccine for SARS, bird flu, Ebola, or a host of other diseases that arose during previous administrations. And this is the fun part. The buffoon in the White House uncovered widespread pedophilia in the government and in Hollywood. The buffoon in the White House is exposing worldwide sex trafficking of minors and bringing children home. So the forward keeps on going. It's all along the same vein.
So I think there are a lot of topics over here that are very contentious.
Yes.
I definitely disagree with many of these, but then again, that's my opinion.
Right. So what I'm curious, so both of us end up having the same opinion, but forget about let's not forget about. What's your emotional reaction to that message when you heard it?
I do not think that any of whatever is mentioned is something that was a direct goal of his.
Right.
I don't think many of the things that are attributed to the buffoon are actually things that he did, but they're just things that happened while he was in office.
Happened while he was in office, and some of them are questionable. So, for example,
and I think some of them are definitely wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, which is the beauty of the way he functions, right? That he takes a little bit of truth and then adds a shitload of lies, and then we now have new truth, right? For example, brokered 2 peace deals. As far as I understand, that's a fact. But
how much did he have to do with it?
Yes, that's a very good question. I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt, but lowered your taxes. He hasn't lowered. Okay, who's the your in the lowered your taxes, right? Yeah. Fast tracking the development of a COVID vaccine. Very true, but is that good or bad? So they've taken some facts.
No, he's not fast tracking development, has he? He's fast tracking the release of. Yeah. So we're not talking about developing it. He's cutting short the testing and trial phase. Is that correct?
Right. Let's say that's correct.
Let's say that's correct.
Because
development of the vaccine is going to take as long as it takes, as long as there is funding available, right?
Releasing it before it's gone through all the stages of trial,
which is what other countries have also done.
Yeah. So
we should mention that.
What I'd be interested in doing is let's put aside our opinion or our political standpoint, but when you hear someone who sees the same things that you see but comes away with a completely different take, how do you cope with it? Like, do you just shut off, or do you feel like engaging and pointing out where they're wrong, where you think they're wrong?
My perspective is usually when you come up with something like this, either I know what's happening, because as you said, some of it is true, some of it is partially true, and some of it is blatantly false. And when you club all of those together and say that this is reality, that this is what is actually happening, then things get very murky. So my reaction initially is to dismiss it. But then if we're talking to somebody else about it, then you have to go a little further. You have to reach in and do a little fact checking and look at which are the points over here that are not true, which are true, and which are half truths. And that gets very tiring, man. It becomes very tiring. And I'm not talking about Trump versus Biden or whatever, but I mean, in today's world, there's so many different platforms in which this has to be done, whether it's Indian politics or UK politics or US politics. I mean, this is happening everywhere. So it's a lot to do with the media and the way the media is rolling out these truths, half-truths, and falsehoods. So it gets tiring, honestly. And there's only so much you can do so many times you can do it.
It gets tiring, and if I remember correctly, this is not just theoretical, right? Because you've actually lost or been separated from a clan because of differing points of view.
A clan. Yeah. World of Tanks, I had a couple of friends who I played World of Tanks with.
In case some people don't know about World of Tanks, what is it?
World of Tanks is a first-person tank simulation game. So it's a game where you play 15 players against 15 players. These are live players, and you can be a part of a clan or a group where you have up to about 100 people who are part of your group. And you can play live in groups of 3 or groups of 15, depending on the type of game that you're playing. So I used to be part of this group, a group of Indian players, and spent a lot of time chatting with them on WhatsApp and audio chat on TeamSpeak and various other Discord and all of that stuff. So these are guys that I got to know quite well over the years. Obviously share a lot of commonalities, an interest in computers and building computers, interest in tech and understanding tech and a lot of that stuff. So I mean, and then you find out that a person that you think is very at home with figuring out stuff has an opposing point of view to yours, and is very strongly in that other camp, and no matter what you say, cannot be made to see your point of view. That becomes very difficult. Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge to maintain those friendships, and eventually you have to choose between ignoring that part of that person's personality, or saying, hey, this friendship is worth more than that. And it depends on how strongly they're entrenched in their perspective, I think.
And have you been able to find that balance with these World of Tank friends?
Some of them, man. Some of them. Some of them, no.
Right.
And some of them, I felt that it made sense to step away from that friendship rather than sticking it out, because it just didn't make sense to continue. I think someone who would, if push comes to shove, and I actually am in physical need of help or whatever, would choose the opposing point of view. So it was that drastic. So it's not a trivial question that I had in mind. It's something quite drastic that forced me to take this decision.
Right. I've felt what we're talking about, what you're describing with, I remember hanging out with a group of friends, and a topic came up when I suddenly realized that some of those friends have a significantly different point of view to me. And it was almost like the ground fell out from under me, because I completely disagreed with what they were saying. And those are the kind of moments that I'm seeing many of us having. And that's an important moment, because how you respond and how you decide to engage will determine the future of your relationship, not only with those people, but with the community as a whole. Because if we were to keep shutting out people who have a different point of view, I don't know if that's good or bad, but what ends up happening is you're shutting out a huge percentage of the population. Now, maybe that's how you live a happy life. I don't know. But I think the frustrating thing is, even when you have a discussion, there aren't which facts, so maybe like you and I would agree that you want to base the discussion on facts, right? Then opinion comes in. But which facts do you take? Because let me give you an example. Let's take America, because it's distant. So it's not emotionally loaded. As like if we talked about an Indian situation, it would be a little more, there would be more consequence to it. So in America, we have CNN, mainly left-leaning, Fox News, right-leaning. Both of them, in their own way, are biased towards their point of view. Some people will say Fox is more biased, others will say CNN is more biased, but it's clear they have their own agendas. The same incident can be seen significantly differently. So news comes out that Trump has been losing money for many years, right? CNN jumps on it and says, this is an example of how this billionaire who claims to be savvy has actually been making a sequence of losses year after year after year. And this is a problem. This shows Trump can't handle money, isn't as smart as we think. Fox News' take on this was different. They said, look at this man. He may have lost some money, but look how much money he started off with. Like, isn't it amazing that he made that much money in the first place? Now, one argument...
Did he make that much money?
Or was it handed to him? Let's just say one of those arguments...
My understanding is that he didn't make that money.
Yeah. But let's just say one of those arguments is silly and one isn't. But here's the thing. The silly argument depends on which side of the fence you are. Correct. Because with this concept, confirmation bias, right? You have an opinion. You think the loony left is crazy and that they're going to bring America down. And then the left says these right-wingers are heartless, money-minded, highly selfish and egocentric people. I'm not seeing discourse over there. Are you?
No. See, also, I think, and the same thing applies to India also. I think that when facts are taken and, you look at a fact and then say, no, this is not what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about what I think what I think it is. And it's you start making up a story that isn't true, and then you push that to your listeners. That becomes what they're calling it, alternate truths, or
Alt-right.
alt
Oh,
fact, alt fact,
yes.
which is just another word for lies. How can you base a discussion when one party is looking at established fact, another one is just talking about stuff that they make up? What do you do at that point?
The scary thing is, you may not always know they've made it up.
Exactly. And that's the issue. That's why fact checking is becoming so important these days, and which is why people need to look at facts and check the facts that they're spreading on both sides. I'm not saying it's only the right or whatever. I've come across lies being spread by my side also, the side that I think is right, is correct. Possibly by accident, because you don't know what's being what is. I mean, you don't know what other people are spreading, thinking that it's true. So you need to keep checking facts when you spread them, checking whatever you spread, rather. And that becomes tiresome, right? Because how much can you do of that?
Yeah, and I want to add to that's a very important point, how these things are tiresome, because I was having this conversation the other day. Just imagine you're a average American, say you're a car mechanic, right? And you come back at the end of a tough day of work and you have about half an hour. You have the kids, one kid is unwell, the next one has some school project the next day. You have some work at home that you need to get done. So you have half an hour at the end of the evening to just catch up on the news. That's it.
Yeah.
Your family has been watching Fox News for generations, for decades, whenever Fox News started. So that's your go-to channel. And on this go-to channel, you hear Vice President Mike Pence come on and say, Trump has created X number of new jobs, and this COVID thing is overblown. It's not that big a deal. He sees this. In fact, he got COVID and he's recovered so fast. So I think these Dems and left-wingers are overreacting. Now, what you need to do is say, okay, so this is what Pence says. Let's switch to CNN and see what they're saying. And then look at this objectively. How many people have the time? That's a big factor. You just have half an hour at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Or the patience. Because, dude, you need a certain emotional maturity and inner patience to listen to someone who you think is just making stuff up or is just full of themselves.
Yeah.
Or full of lies. Listen to them without getting defensive. Take in what they're saying and then make an educated comparison. That's tough. So we're working with limited time and limited patience. I don't know how this is going to get any better, because, I mean, they've compared the Democratic-Republican divide in the 60s and the Democratic-Republican divide now. And things have got so much more polarized. And we're seeing the same things here as well, right? In India.
Yeah.
This polarization. So it's easy to get angry with all these people. In the midst of all of this, how do we become more tolerant, right? That's a big question.
The question is, how do you listen to someone who's not listening to you? How do you have a conversation with someone who's only speaking about their truth?
Right.
And which you have seen to not be true.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're having a conversation with this person in real life and you have to tolerate them all the time, how much of it can you put up with? And so I've seen a lot of people on Facebook and other places say, if you think that I'm crazy for having this point of view, just unfriend me. And they also unfriend people who they think are consistently spewing what they think is hate or untruthfulness or whatever. Yeah, so absolutely, I see that these conversations are becoming fewer and scarcer, and also when they do happen, that they're more disputes than conversations. I don't know how we can be more tolerant. In my view, there's only so much that you can actually take before you have to give up and say, I need to preserve my own integrity, my own well-being. So I have to disconnect from this conversation. And I've had to do this not just once with this one group, but other groups also, because I think that because eventually you see that people, the conversation eventually ends up being people not giving, not really being interested in welfare of anyone other than their own group. When I say, hey, this is what is at stake for other people, I say, hey, but what about, in the past, they've never actually given a damn about us, which, there are lots of reasons for that, because they're privileged and all of that stuff. They don't have to be thought about because they're doing fine. Well, these are the minorities, and they need to be taken care of for various reasons, because otherwise they will be oppressed, and which is what is happening. At least that's what I see. So when people like this end up not caring about others, you need to think about, is it worth engaging with them beyond a certain point? I end up having, getting this fight or flight reaction, and I'm sitting at my phone with WhatsApp, and all of that ends up, with that adrenaline and all of that pulsing through you, you end up, enraged.
There's a restlessness. For me, I know what you're talking about, but I experience it as this restlessness. I want to just say something or do something. There's an irritability about.
No, I actually spend hours actually saying what I think over there, and
to yourself.
No, to those guys, whoever it is,
right?
Having a all-out blast of discussion. And well, in a way, I think that's distanced me from certain groups, and I think that it's important, at least to say my piece, to make people understand that this is not a discussion that I'm having for myself, but rather for to speak out for the opinions that I have. And it's not about a party or anything like that. I mean, I would call out either party if they were doing something that I thought was wrong. I'm talking about here in India, because I don't have a say in what's happening in the US. I don't think I need to tell anybody in the US that they're doing the right or wrong thing. I mean, I can have an opinion of what's going on, but I don't need to tell anyone that it's right or wrong. In India, though, that's a different matter, and it's my country, and we have a thought about patriotism and all of that. We'll probably have a chat about that sometime.
Right.
But yeah, I live in this country, and I have a say in what I think should or should not happen here. It concerns my well-being, the well-being of people who I know in this country, and my family. So it makes sense that I should be able to speak out about this. And I have no affinity to either party or any party. I only have an affinity to what I think is the right thing to do. People don't understand this. They think oh yes, you're talking about this, you must be Congress, Congress supporter. You've been paid off by the Congress, and
Didn't
that's the
someone
only thing
say
that.
that? Like literally say that to you?
Oh, absolutely, it happens. Like,
Yeah.
and they don't say that just about like a person that they know like this. They talk about it to pretty much anyone who has that sort of a view. And in a way, I think that's important to the strategy, because it creates this divide, right? When you start calling people names and you say that they hate us, that's why they're doing it. Then it creates a divide. You cannot speak to those other people on the other side. And when that happens, oh, that's nice. Can you hear that drilling?
I could. Not that
Well,
bad, not that disturbing. Huh.
Yeah, but anyway, guys, you'll have to put up with it. Yeah, so when that divide happens is when one side, in India, the majority is always going to be one religion. But then again, there's a lot of underlying layers below that. So it's difficult to say, yeah, but in the end, that divide, I think, is important for certain types of politics to happen, to influence people in a certain way. And I forgot your question, dude.
No. You're on the same topic. How do you deal with that tolerance?
Yeah.
How can we be more tolerant?
Yeah. So how can we be tolerant? I don't think we can be tolerant beyond a certain point. When it becomes a matter of your health, safety, well-being, and the other person just does not care for that. And we saw that when we had riots and people getting killed and all of that stuff. It's no longer just a battle of ideologies, but actually people being, being rendered homeless, their health, prosperity, their entire lives being disrupted. At that point, I think it's no longer a conceptual discussion, but one that is very real. And in an ideal world, you would still be able to talk to these people. So as far as possible, I've left it where I can actually go back and have a normal conversation with them, as long as it's not anything to do with politics and stuff. So I've not like cut ties with these people by any means.
Right.
I still go and have discussions, but my conversations with them have been reduced to essentials. Do I need to speak to this person? Yes. Okay, fine. I'm not going to just have a chat with them. Hey man, how are you doing?
Yes. Very instrumental.
I do that sometimes, but again, it's I have in the back of my mind this knowledge that this person has a fundamentally different point of view when it comes to important things that might affect me and my family. So it's difficult to have a lighthearted, cheerful banter with them.
Yeah. So it sounds like basically when you come across someone who has a significantly different view, you can either engage in conversation, which will then might get out of hand if both of you are passionate about your viewpoint.
Sure.
Or you get up and walk away. And
what happens when you have a long conversation, a really long conversation, and you go nowhere with it?
Yeah.
What do you do then?
Yeah. You change the topic.
You change the topic.
Either you're fed up and you just don't want to see that person anymore, and so you get up and walk away, or you change the topic. But this get up and walk away fascinates me because, we see that happening. For example, in America, some influential people, say Joe Rogan, for example, left California for a bunch of reasons, but left California and went to Texas. And this is where my conspiracy theory came in with your analogy, especially of your reference to Man in the High Tower. because there's a good chance that this get up and walk away reaction. So you're living in a community with a lot of people who have a different point of view. Say you're left-leaning or right-leaning and they are the opposite. Now, after a bit of discourse, the conversation that we talked about, you get fed up of having that conversation. Things get emotional, whatever it is. You want to surround yourself with people who have similar views because life is just more comfortable that way.
True.
So then, as of now, again, America is easier to deal with. Say you have a bunch of red states and a bunch of blue states. It doesn't mean everyone in that state votes Democrat or everyone votes Republican. It's just a majority.
Just majority. Absolutely.
Right? So now what happens if over some time, decades maybe, people start changing geographical locations so that
because the states are more preferential to their way of thinking.
Yeah, their way of thinking. So now you may have an East Coast and a West Coast of America, which is liberal, and then a center belt of America, which is purely Republican. And then you have the basis of a civil war, because the stage is set for a civil war. But
you see that actually happening, because some people are privileged to be able to move, but not everybody.
Yeah, it's true. It also gets really murky, man. I was listening to this interview with Matthew McConaughey, and in fact, even before that, with another Republican senator. And they were talking about, if you're coming from they're both in Texas. So if you're coming from a different state, say a liberal state like California, you're coming to move to Texas for a reason. You like something about Texas. And this something is our culture. And this is an argument that's going on in India as well, right? So this is our culture. So if you like your way of doing things, i.e. your culture, stay in your place. Don't come here and convert our place into your place, because that beats the purpose of coming here in the first place. So at one level, this sounds like, okay, fair enough. But then it's very quickly you see this is sort of xenophobia. Like, no, change is not okay. I like the way things are right now. We are not going to merge our viewpoints. You are going to come here and take on our views. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's something, right? It's something.
Well, I think so. Yeah. So you have to be accommodating of all viewpoints, and that goes without saying. I think I have to be accommodating of these friends who have drastically different viewpoints from mine. But again, there's a threshold at which you say this is enough. Yeah. So if these people are coming to a different state for the culture, that's fine. Let them come for whatever culture, or let them bring whatever culture. But are they going to change the culture of the state? I don't know. Is the number of people moving large enough? I don't have info, so I can't really comment on that. Over the years, I don't know, there might be a consolidation of people based on values that they support.
This is the liberal conservative divide, right? Where conservatives, okay, this is just my understanding, very low level, simplified understanding of the liberal conservative divide. But at least one dimension of it is that conservatives feel the way things are this way because it's what makes life work. And so these things, these habits, these rituals, these practices are good. They are here for a reason. So don't change them. Old is good, new is reckless. Whereas the liberal is saying, the old stuff worked for a while, but that doesn't mean that's the only way of doing it. Like, for example, you take like a conservative may say, a woman's role, say American conservatives say, a woman's role is to be at home. Because evolutionarily, they were designed to do that. You're a mother, you connect with your offspring. They are the ones who are more nurturing. But the liberal will say, okay, that's how things evolved, but we're past that right now. And a woman has a right. Why does a man get to do whatever he wants to do and a woman doesn't, right? So this change, we react to change differently, fundamentally, it seems. Conservative versus liberal. So this argument of all these people coming in, they are murderers and rapists and they're here and they're going to take over. This is, you either get that explicitly said like that, or couched in terms like your culture and our culture and respect the difference and you assimilate in ours. So I don't know, man. It's this is the flat earther in me. Like the fact that people still think the earth is flat just boggles my mind.
There's a flat earther in you. Who are you, man?
No. I'm talking about just the extreme. Wait. I'm going to come back to this, but I have got to share just a quick detour. Have we talked about flat Earth on the in the podcast before? I don't think so. Anyway, just give me like 2 minutes. So the flat Earth concept is basically that the Earth is flat, so the oceans fall off the edge of the Earth or whatever. And that this round Earth thing is a deception that's being orchestrated by a group of influential people or whatever, the usual conservative like tribe. This one podcaster was talking to a flat earther, and just as he was going to start, like near the beginning of the interview, he said, "Hey, can I just read this out? This is by NASA." So the flat earther says, "Okay, fine." And this guy's NASA statement is something along the lines of, if you believe the earth is flat, you're not just saying that NASA is lying and is covering up something. You are saying that there are 71 other space agencies in the world, all capable of launching satellites. They're all lying. And all the astrophysicists around the world who've dedicated their careers to this, they're all lying as well. Which is more likely? And then this...
And the astronauts and
the astronauts and their families and the cleaners at NASA. Well, the cleaners may not know about the science, but so then that's a great argument. This guy says, I don't know. Then we have the guy who decides that he wants to see if the Earth is round for himself, so he builds a rocket. He builds a rocket, straps himself in, and takes off. I think he crashed and died. I don't know. But yeah, just the fact that conspiracies get to that level like cracks me up.
And how does that? Okay, since we're talking about tolerance and all that, and it applies here, how does that get so much coverage that it's still a thing today?
I think I don't know. I'd love to hear your opinion as well. I think it gets coverage in America. I don't think it gets coverage the world over. And I wonder whether that's because...
Free speech?
Science. Yes, free speech for sure. Individuality. I get to say what I want, what I think. Whereas, for example, in India, it's much more collectivist. Not that stupid things aren't said everywhere in the world, but this particular type of stupid thing is in America. And I have to clarify, I don't think thinking the...
In India, we have our own breed of stuff, man.
Yes, exactly.
Our Indian ancients had nuclear physics and nuclear bombs, the internet and flew in aeroplanes and all of that stuff, yeah.
I don't have a problem with saying, hey, NASA might be lying, or what if the Earth is flat? I have no problem with that. I have a problem with, after having said that and saying, I'm not going to believe you just because you say it is. After having said that, if you go and ignore all the evidence that's being provided, if you don't understand how science works, and by that I mean science can make mistakes, but it corrects itself. Yeah. And its statements are based on evidence. Like, there's a methodology to this. I don't think a lot of Americans... I think not a lot of Americans. I think there is a portion of America that distrusts science. and that
Portion of
leads to
India too.
problems.
But the thing is, you then go and use your cell phone for GPS,
Yes.
and
The
trust that.
funniest
But
flat Earth, the funniest flat Earth thing. It's just so quick and simple. Is this guy who starts off? He's got a flat Earth YouTube channel. Again, I was looking at flat Earth fails, which is when I came across this. Guy starts out. He's got a podcast, and it's obvious that the whole podcast is going to be about defending the flat Earth theory. And he starts off by saying, good morning, everyone. Oh, for some of you, it's going to be good afternoon or good evening. And then he pauses. No, it isn't. Because he realizes that if the world is flat, we don't have time zones. It's when you have a round. Yes. So like I promised, I'm going to bring it back. This flatter detour was just because I find it so amusing. So the conspiracy theorist in me, who likes the conspiracy theory, the excitement of one, wonders whether this sort of geographical polarization will happen. It'll be interesting to see where this goes, like 10, 15 years from now.
Right. Yeah, and there's no way of really understanding where this will go. Actually, maybe there is. Maybe people have thought about it, because I remember reading a couple of Isaac Asimov books where he talks about how, on the home planet, or whatever it's called. I forgot what it's called. I think this was one of the Foundation series, where he goes back in the past or something. He's talking about the past. I don't remember exactly, but he talks about these very basic differences in thinking separate entire geographical regions of a planet. Fascinating to see that.
Yes.
You can take someone, and someone can take that idea and extrapolate and make entire science fiction out of it. And perhaps someday it will come true.
Yeah, a friend of mine said something very interesting. I remember we were having this discussion about India and how tolerance here is limited in many communities, and it looks. I mean, if you look at the glass half empty view of things, you can see things are only going to get worse, and this division is going to get worse, and minorities in India are going to get oppressed even more. And so I remember saying, I was talking to this person, and she was like, yeah, I don't know. And I said, would you consider leaving India? And she says, why would I leave India? It's these situations that we need to stand up to. So I would stay. I wouldn't run away to another country. I'd stay on and fight. Yeah. And that just blew my mind, because there was a civic sense in her.
Absolutely.
I need to make a difference. Running away is not the solution.
Pretty much what my dad was also saying. So I had read an article recently about how the caste divide, Indian caste divide, is wreaking havoc on IT companies in the US, because Indians go there and they have that same caste separation happening in American IT companies, not based on skill, but caste. So my dad was of the opinion, like, yeah, they deserve it, because, you have all these people going there, and then, they say land of the free and all that, anybody's welcome. And then people take a bit of their home over there. And then you have a lot of people over there doing stuff. It's bound to happen.
Yeah.
So exactly what he was saying of, again, I thought it, turns out it's already happening. I thought that if you have some people migrating, yes, you might have the culture change, might not have culture change. But yeah, in the course of this podcast episode, we've already seen that it happens. Yeah. So a little bit of India in the US.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he was also saying, like, yeah, you could easily go abroad, but why not just stay in your country and do what you can? Of course, there are arguments like if you're in an oppressive country where things are really bad, then you want to look out for something better for your family and all of that. Then
Right.
yes, and I think that makes sense. But again, would I leave India? Until now, I haven't had the thought. So, I mean, I've been asked a few times, but again, I don't see myself leaving the country.
One of my friends made a very interesting point because I've been brought up in a very westernized community. So, a lot of the pop culture, American pop cultural references, I enjoy. I watch a lot of Hollywood movies, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But a friend of mine who had gone to New York to do his master's and came back said, you may think that you get American culture, but you don't.
Right.
For every reference you get, there are 10 references that you won't know about. Like there's something fundamentally different. And so that reminded me that what I am is a westernized Indian person, but
Yes.
Indian nonetheless, because this is not, I wouldn't fit in America. And I don't feel like I don't completely fit in here either. But nevertheless, I'm part of India. There is a subset of Indians who are like this. We have our own little references, our own little jokes, our own little ways of speaking, which is what I love about India. The fact that it is multicultural, the fact that there is so much richness to our culture. What bums me out, I'm sure it bums you out and bums many other people out, is the belief that mine is better than yours, and then my views should trump yours, and that becomes a little sad. But yeah, when it comes to, so it looks like learning to recognize the differences and perhaps letting go, maybe a way forward. Do you think work helps us do this just automatically? The being neutral.
What do you mean by work?
So when you take on a client, when you're looking at trends, is it more about, do you end up becoming more pragmatic? Like, this is the way things are going. Let's not get so worried about like whether that's right or wrong. Let's try and adapt. Let's see what we can do given this situation. Is there an element to that?
Well, I think you have to work with all types of people. And when you're working with someone, I don't see how these discussions really come into play. They haven't with me so far, unless it is someone who is, I don't think politics has really come into any of my work discussions, thankfully. I've had inquiries from people who are of a religious bent, and they have they need certain videos made. They're talking about religious topics. Not my religion, but I'm happy to work for them. There's no issue there. I don't see why I shouldn't help someone make a video, even if it is slightly controversial in topic. They, again, if it is solidly opposed to, I mean, if it's something that would result in people, oppressing someone else, of course, I would have an objection. But as long as it's, them talking about their beliefs and all that, I have no problem with that. Hate is a different thing from just talking about your beliefs, and as long as it's not hating on any other group, I'm fine with that.
Right.
So I don't see why that would affect work. It hasn't come into play so far in any of my work, and I don't foresee that it will, unless this becomes a big issue in the future.
Right. I think finding something in common with the other person is one way of healing. And maybe we could end with this. So I watch a lot of UFC, Ultimate Fighting, mixed martial arts, and there's a guy there. In fact, he came in the news yesterday because So he's from Dagestan, which is just outside Russia. I'm not quite sure, but it's connected to Russia. And and he is Muslim. So he's in America, kicking American ass as a fighter, and he's got a 29-0 record, and he's a superstar in the world of mixed martial arts. Khabib Nurmagomedov, the Americans say Khabib Nurmagomedov. Nurmagomedov. Americans say Nurmagomedov. Khabib Nurmagomedov. There we go.
All right.
The crazy thing is that his English is broken, okay, because he's trying to learn. And he's saying Alhamdulillah and very open about his religion, him being he being a Muslim. These American, many of them, at least in the UFC, a lot of them are conservative, right-leaning Republicans. And you would think that they would step back from this foreigner who's not all about America, and they judge him and say, you're an alien. But the fact that he can fight has won them over. And so these people are welcoming him and his clan into their fold because he does that thing that they all love. He does it really well. And they are changing their English to match his. So, for example, he will say something like, you are number one idiot. Like, when he's making fun of you, right? You would think these dudes would be saying, hey, speak English properly, man. What rubbish. They now speak like that. You are number one idiot. It makes me laugh to see that. In a good way. Yeah, it makes me feel warm inside.
Yeah.
And I think trade in the past has done this. Like,
absolutely,
when different cultures met, trading united them.
It has also created conflict. We have the British East India Company.
Yes. Yes, I think if we go down
the
there,
only company to own a country.
Yeah,
pretty much.
And then we have countries that owned people. The little thing called slavery that was a bit of a created a bit of a furor in
So yeah, trade. It has done good things. It has done bad things. Yeah, I think we should try to do more of the good stuff and less of the bad stuff.
Less of the bad. Oh, beautifully put. I think we should wrap up there. That was a brilliant quote to end. Susheel, do more of the good things and less of the bad things.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I think that's what we should aspire to. I mean, we're not perfect, right? So, if you want more of these conversations.
Yes, no, but first of all, Susheel, thanks. This I had fun because I got to talk through a lot of the stuff that's been going on in my mind. I find it useful to talk through these things because otherwise I just go round and round in circles in my head. So I enjoyed this, and I hope all of you viewers and listeners enjoyed it too.
Yeah, it looks like we have one viewer. I don't know if it's you.
I don't know.
No, we seem to have one viewer. Welcome.
Without having said anything about this. So where can they find out more about us, Susheel?
So let's talk about what's happening here. So we're trying a new format, and we're streaming on twitch.tv live, and we're using StreamYard to do this. So we're trying this out, and once the stream is done, we will be republishing on YouTube, and the audio will be, of course, broadcast on our audio podcast, which is available on all major platforms. But you can find us on slidingdoorspodcast.com. We have, if you're watching our video, then welcome to the Sliding Doors Podcast. You can find us on slidingdoorspodcast.com. Check out the ticker at the bottom. Thank you to StreamYard for giving us these.
Susheel is really. So for those of you listening, there's a bunch of cool graphics on the screen right now, and Susheel's really excited about the options that StreamYard's giving us. So he's editing in real time. changing cameras, changing views.
And you can also find us on our individual platforms. Instagram, for the most part. Rohan is available at Rohan Tries Thinking. You can see that on the screen. And I am Susheel02 on Instagram. Please follow us and say things that you think about and that you think that you feel strongly about. Say them to us on these platforms.
Yes, say them to us. And if you have things you'd like us to discuss, or if you would like to be part of a discussion, let us know. We're open to any of this.
Please. Yeah. And as long as people are open to have a discussion with us, we're always happy to talk about stuff.
We're open.
As much as possible.
As much as possible, yes.
Thank you for following and listening to us. It's been a privilege to have your attention for this time. And we will be back next week. We'll see you then.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.